Welcome to the SF Gold Nuggets podcast, where we introduce members of the YPO SF Gold chapter through showcasing their superpowers. I'm your host, Paul Maloney. In our last episode, Rachel Phelps tagged her husband John as my next guest, and I had the chance to jump on a Zoom with him. Throughout our conversation, I was constantly reminded of the words of William Blake. At the risk of appearing pretentious, I wanted to cite the opening and closing lines of his poem Auguries of Innocence. It starts with, "To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour." And it closes with, "God appears and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night, but does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day." There is endless beauty hidden in plain sight, and once in a while we encounter a seer like John Phelps, someone who is filled with endless wonder and never fails to seize the moment. People with this superpower have a tell. They think they're lucky. I'll let you in on a secret, my friends. It ain't luck. As Blake expresses in this poem, it comes from dwelling in the realms of day, from savoring beams of light. John's professed superpower is finding wings and soaring. I found that this is in harmony with others and always from a place of love. The notion of flying continuously presented itself throughout our conversation, both literally and metaphorically. Listen to John share stories of nuggets that he finds hidden in plain sight, moments that he seizes and transforms to journeys of soaring heights.
I mean, fundamentally, I'll just say I'm an incredibly lucky boy. I mm, I chose parents full of love, and they met in junior high school, and had an incredible life together. And I want to, in honor of Father's Day, say a few things about my father. But we lived in 8 countries, as either as a family or later on in life, and and lived in the local neighborhood and got exposed to the culture, the language, the subtleties that are unique. And it just it that I think more than anything taught me to be a little bit adaptable, but also very respectful of, different points of view, different ways of doing things. And, I eventually took a lot of classes. I probably 50 classes, at Stanford Evening, up at UW when I was in Hong Kong and in Brazil, um, epigenetics, geology, all kinds of weird stuff, dream incubation. And I am just super curious, and love to go explore. And I also love gently pushing boundaries, and sharing new valuable information, like the session we did a year ago on psychedelic medicine, and then last November, Love, Sex, and Joy After 50. And a lot of people initially are a little bit uncomfortable with all that, but on the whole, a lot of people have come up and said, "Wow, thank you. That was good." And my life has also been a little bit like jumping off of cliffs quite a bit, to, move from Silicon Valley to Seattle, and then Hong Kong, and then Brazil, Europe, and, but with an emotional parachute. I would lay it out and have some connection in that place. My passion is putting wings on people, supporting them to find their passions, their path, their peace.
Okay, so far we've heard John talk about flying metaphorically. He's jumped off a cliff with an emotional parachute, and he's put wings on people. Let's now turn to John's celebration of his father and some literal taking to the sky.
And I want to say a few more words about my father. He was the only child, essentially. His father abandoned him when he was 2, and he craved family and made an incredible family. And eventually his grandfather and his grammar school principal took him under their wing and got him into Boy Scouts, guided him into the Naval Academy. He did a PhD in physics later, a master's in civil engineering, was a CB battalion commander, and taught physics at the Naval Academy. So we hopped around every year or two, and I was in 11 schools in 12 years. But he taught me to cry. Watch a happy or sad movie, he would shed a few tears, and that was very cool for me to learned that that's okay. And every time I'd pass him in the hallway, he gives me a great big smile, a powerful hug, and tells me he loved me. And he was a brave man all the way through his bladder cancer battle. I came home from college. I'm going to tell this one story. That's okay? I came,
Tell as many stories as you would like.
oh, so I came home from Antioch College, which is an amazing place because it's 50% academic, 50% experiential. And every quarter they give you a catalog. It's like a catalog of jobs all over the world. And I got to work at MIT, the Library of Congress, VA Hospital. Initially, I started in um, mentally impaired youth, but I didn't like how those things were run. So I migrated toward management. But my father, when I came home, he said, "John, we're going to drive up to the nut tree for your sister's birthday tomorrow." I said, "No, I'm here to visit friends. I'm busy." And then the nut tree is a silly place. And he said, "Okay, we're going to go the next day. You need to come." So the next day we got in the wood paneled station wagon, drove out, to the nut tree from Moraga, California, and past Concord Airport. And my sister and my mother in the car as well. And my sister says, "Daddy, look, little airplanes. There's an airport at Nut Tree. We should go in an airplane." And my father said, "No, Jenny, it's very expensive. There's no pilots anywhere. And, we haven't made any arrangement. No way." And my sister says, "Daddy, it's my birthday." So I, I'm just listening. And he finally says, "Okay, okay, let's go check it out." And they go in the first building. There's a plane, but no pilot. They go in the second building. There's a pilot, but no plane. And they go in the third business, and there's a plane, and a pilot will be ready in 15 minutes. So we get in the plane, the four of us, we're waiting, and I'm in the back right behind my father, and he starts playing with the knobs and dials. And I'm like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing, Dad? You don't know anything about this. Leave it alone." And if I didn't trust him so much, I would have reached around and choked him. But suddenly, the propeller starts turning, and we start moving around. And then suddenly we're on the runway and in the air. I'm like, "Oh man, that could have gone either way." But I was just thrilled. And I trust my father so much. I was delighted. And everything on the ground gets so small in perspective. So we flew into the nut tree. It was incredible. And had a nice lunch, came back. And actually, the next week, I went back to Ohio to Antioch, and Wright Pat Air Force Base nearby, as a Navy dependent, I was eligible to fly. And for $11 an hour, plane and an instructor, I couldn't afford not to. So the week I graduated, I got my license, and then, lived all around. And he and I actually convinced him to buy half of an airplane with me together when I was in Seattle, and we traded it back and forth. And then I ended up in Hong Kong and Brazil and flew some there, but he mostly flew and I mostly paid. But in the end, we were in Munich, and he ended up suffering from bladder cancer because he smoked as a kid and it was declining. And I came back over and sat with him, and I said, "Dad, what do you think about me flying this airplane from here from California across to Munich to have in Europe, across the North Atlantic?" And he said, "I would do it in a heartbeat." So after he passed, I took his ashes and scattered them on the beaches in Labrador, Greenland, Iceland, Scotland. And just, it was so amazing to be able to do that. And had the plane in Europe for 2 years, and it was incredible. Excuse me while I kiss this guy. I've been damn lucky. And, another thing I've been blessed with is I have a neighbor who's 95 and a half, retired dentist, Roger. And most days when I walk the dog, he gives me the signal, "When you finish walking the dogs, let's have our medicine." And so virtually every day, it used to be 7 p.m., but because of the Aura Ring, I migrated to 4 o'clock. I stop by and we have a little whiskey and we solve all the world's problems. And it's just so beautiful to connect with him uh, almost every day. And he is so coherent and he loves to recount the girl he dated when he was 16 or, you know, adventures he's had traveling. And, wow. He's like a surrogate father. And I actually take him flying occasionally and introduced him to my aunt. And they have a lovely connection.
Let's be honest here. How many of us would have discovered a father figure while walking around the neighborhood and subsequently launched a deeply meaningful ritual? Yet another moment seized. In closing, I asked John to anoint my next victim, and here's what he had to say. I'd like to note that even in naming my next subject, we see yet another example where John seizes a moment, grabs his wings, and takes people flying. In this instance, by mentoring students.
Uh, Kim Polizzi is
Okay.
incredible. She, co-teaches with Jim the capstone course, Lean Launchpad at UC Berkeley Haas, his MBA program. And
Oh, yeah.
he recruited me as a mentor for last semester. And wow,
So there you have it. Another member introduced and another superpower revealed. Kim Polizzi, I'm coming for you. See you all next time and have a great rest of the summer.